everyone, good evening. Welcome back for another Star Trek The Official Starships Collection Review. In front of me now I have issue number 99, the Assimilated Arctic 1, seen on Star Trek Enterprise in the episode Regeneration from the second season. I have his magazine and a model here as usual, so I'll put this aside for just a minute and let's look at what this contains. Alright, so it is operated by none other than the Borg, and it was launched in the 22nd century, 80 meters long, and apparently this thing can go as fast as warp 4.98, which is pretty much warp 5 almost. Turning the page, the usual layout, and a recap of the specs. The weaponry consists of proton-based energy beams and a cutting beam. It was destroyed in the year 2153, 80 meters long, of course operated by the Borg, in operation during the 22nd century, etc., etc. And here's a nice little image of the ship there, as well as some text. And interestingly enough, this is the ship before it was assimilated. We didn't really get a good look at it, but yeah, that's what it looked like before. And turning the page, more about that, the episode and the ship it appeared in, or the episode the ship appeared in. And the diagram page showing you where things are, etc., etc., etc. And here's a section on the design process of the Arctic 1. And more on that. And here's a section which I thought was actually a pretty nice read. This was basically a section about the beginnings of the Borg. For those of you who are familiar, or not familiar even, the reason this episode came about, or the way it came about, was in Star Trek First Contact, within the first maybe 15-20 minutes of the film, Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise E had a major battle with the Borg in Sector 001. Starfleet engaged them, etc., etc. And once they were defeated, the Borg cube launched a sphere, and that sphere attempted, or actually did, go back in time to the year 2063, like to April 3rd, in order to stop Zefram Cochrane from making his famous warp flight, which, as those of you would know, attracted the attention of the Vulcans, and therefore launched humanity into the interstellar community. The Borg knew this, apparently, and they went back in time to try to stop that flight from ever happening, because no Vulcans, no warp flight, no Federation, no Starfleet, and thus they would have been assimilated. But before they could accomplish their goal, they were defeated, and the ship, the sphere, was also destroyed and during Earth orbit. And but nobody ever thought anything of it. The ship just exploded, and the movie went on. When Enterprise came about, the writers decided to have an episode which thought, well, what if debris from that Borg sphere crashed on Earth somewhere in the past? And it did. It crashed in the Arctic. Borg drones and debris of the Borg sphere from the 24th century landed in the Arctic, in Antarctica, and were found by a group of scientists, Earth scientists. And not knowing what they were, of course, they brought them back, so to speak. And then the rest is history. The Borg came back, they wreaked havoc on the ship, assimilated their ship, which is the ship that I'm reviewing right now, and tried to basically get themselves back to the Delta Quadrant, or get in contact with the collective. So anyway, this was a nice read about that, and kind of a little extensive there. And here is the on-screen appearance page. It's only been in one episode, sadly. Star Trek Enterprise, and the ship, of course, was designed by John Eaves. Interestingly enough, one of the doctors that was assimilated in the episode was actually the wife of John Billingsley, who is Dr. Phlox on Star Trek Enterprise. So that was a nice little piece of trivia. So yeah, pretty much that is the magazine, of course. And on the back, I have a nice image of the ship from the top. And that is a neat magazine. So let's get to the model itself. There it is in the box. Looks kind of dark, but let's see. Alright, and my first impression is this thing is detailed to the max. Look at that. It is very, very nice indeed. Very dark. I don't know if that's actually accurate. Should have been lighter, but that's okay. I'm not complaining. Got some green paint highlighting windows or ports, I guess, as usual with the Borg, and lots of conduits and cables and panel lines and stuff. This thing is enormously detailed. It's pretty darn cool, if I may say so myself. Looking at this, would I be able to tell it's Star Trek? Probably not. Looks like something out of Star Wars, really, or some other ship or some other series, dare I say it. But this is actually really, really cool. It's really neat how they put this together. I can't really find anything wrong with it. There are no clear plastic for any engine components because we really don't even know where the engines are. At least not immediately. And all of the, let's see, all of the little ports and windows are painted green. As I noted, there is no Borg insignia on this ship for obvious reasons. This was an Earth ship that was assimilated by Borg drones, and they were constantly adding on to it. The theory was that this ship was going to eventually become a cube, but the writers chose not to go into that direction. The model is mostly plastic, especially the rear end, the stern section, and of course the primary ship itself, or the primary hull, is mostly metal on the bottom and of course on the top. This is one of those ships in the collection, one of the models in the collections you have to be delicate with because I'm sure it can break easily. This is definitely worth picking up, especially if you're a fan of the Borg. If you don't like Star Trek Enterprise, avoid it altogether. But if you had to pick any ship, alien ship from Star Trek Enterprise among some of the others, I would pick this up simply because it looks nice. It will look nice next to all of the other Borg ships. So yeah, you know, this ship was destroyed in the episode, but not before sending a distress signal to the Delta Quadrant. And as T'Pol noted, it would take approximately, 200 years for a signal to reach there, which it did, and it's kind of like a paradox. So maybe that's where the cube was already on its way to Earth when Q flung the Enterprise D in the path of that cube, thereby alerting the Federation and the Borg of the existence of the Federation. So yeah, and of course the model comes with a stand that simply says Arctic 1 Assimilated in parentheses. And stand, kind of odd looking stand I might say, kind of fits in place like that. Well, like that. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. I think some of these ships, I think there should be a tutorial on how to mount the models to them. But here's where stupidity kicks in. According to the magazine, you're supposed to put the butt in the bottom of the thing. So let's try it out and see. Oh. Aha, I think. Yeah. No. Definitely not. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully at some point I can get this thing in the in place here without breaking it. Oh man. What the heck is this? So the part with the thing coming out goes in here? No? Oh. Okay, Egomosh, you screwed up. You didn't think this one out very well, did you? Yeah, I'm having trouble trying to get this model onto this stand. I could stay here all night trying to figure it out, but I'm just gonna like leave it at that. Anyway, yeah, aside from the bad stand, which I will probably figure out, this is a good model to have. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, live long and prosper.